Highland Perthshire Communities Partnership is an umbrella organisation. It's been going for about 17 years. I think we now have somewhere in the region of 25, 26 different organisations within that, and Heartland FM is one of those groups. And some years ago, Heartland FM had to move premises from what was the old curling rink to somewhere else, and we were kind of got a pretty short time scale to do it. Mad panic. None of us really had much experience before of applying for grants, and someone who was much smarter than I at the time applied to Weeder, and we got money from Weeder, match funded by money from Perth and Kinross Council. At that time, none of us had really seen an application form before, and when we saw the Weeder stuff, we kind of panicked hugely, and not just with the filling of the form, but the whole reporting procedure as well we found quite difficult. But having said that, there was a great deal of support within that as to how to get through it. But the most important thing, though, was that the money came through, because if it hadn't come through, then the radio station, which is the oldest radio station in the UK of its kind, 23 years it's been running now, it would have closed down. So without that support from Weeder, it wouldn't have been there. What was funded was the removal of all the existing equipment from one premises to another, rebuild and relocation costs, upgrade of some of the existing equipment plus other new equipment, and also there was some outreach work within the school. So it wasn't just decanting from one building for another. There were a number of strands within that allowed us not just to move from buildings, but to help change the way the radio station worked in some ways, and the people that we were dealing with. The whole thing took less than 6 months, and the outreach work that we did, we got in touch with a number of schools. It helped raise the profile a bit. It did some marvellous work with Patterson School, in fact, just outside Dunkeld, and a number of others too, and it got a lot of kids involved. It was an aspect that we weren't looking at when we first applied for the Weeder funding. We were just wanting to get a new premises and keep ourselves on air, but the fringe benefits that came along with that were very good. The payment process, the grant, it's quite amusing. We had a number of problems at that time. It was the Tayside, and the head office was in Forfar. They had a flood. The difficulty processing all the stuff. Rita Callender, who was a great help to us, I must admit, went away on holiday, but just at the same time as the Icelandic volcanoes went up, and she was stuck in South America for some time, which kind of confused the whole issue for us. But having to say that, with the good governance and support from the rest of us around about it, it all worked very well in the end, and we got there. The outcome of which, as I said, we continued to be the oldest radio station of its kind in the UK. Increased awareness right across a number of schools, and some of those links are still there, and we're still working with a number of schools as well. And it just proved it was an invaluable source for perhaps something that many other funds wouldn't have looked at or would have had a difficulty dealing with, perhaps. And provided. It wasn't quite so much the amount of money, it was just the fact that knowing the money was there. It wasn't a huge amount of money. I think the whole thing was less than £35,000. So it was not the value, it was just the fact it was there. So that was a bit about our process. There was a lot involved with it, a lot of time, and a lot of paperwork as well. But I think this time round it's been a bit more simplified than the last time. Would you say it's a much easier search than it was at that time, perhaps? But yeah, there will be a lot of support, as Steve alluded to. There will be a lot of support from members of the WAG. And HPCP as I said, is an umbrella organisation, and we will be, as we work with a number of other groups, more than happy to be another kind of link in that chain of support. Some of the ideas of, just to let you see some of the projects that would fit in with the Weeder funding. We have a thing called the Pavilion Users Group, which we'll talk about in a minute. We have a broadband project, wireless broadband. We actually have a broadband service up and running, We've taken some areas of Highland Perthshire where they were getting a service of less than 1 megabit per second, and they're now all receiving 16 megs as a startup, and we're looking to increase that as time goes on. So that's a live business that we've got up and running, and the plan is that we will cover the whole of Highland Perthshire at some point as we roll it out. Health and social care, we're working with community transport, the dualling of the A9 and the consequences of that. There's a new magazine being produced in Highland Perthshire called the Heartlander. We have a new music festival coming up this year, which is called March into Pitlochry, 11th and 12th. Get your tickets soon. And Kilwicranky Path, which has now been completed and has made a bigger impact than we thought it would have done initially, even though it's quite a short path, but it is in a very turning a dangerous area into a safe walking area now. So within that, we've picked one of the groups just to let you see within our project there are a number of other projects within one big project, and this one being the Pavilion Users Group, which we call PUGS. And it's hosted and chaired by HPCP, and it's there to try and make sure that the community gets what it needs. In Pitlochry, our outdoor organised sports area is a large expanse of grass and a set of goalposts, and that's basically it. For a town the size of Pitlochry, it's not nearly enough. But there is a strong swell of community support for doing this. Patterson Kate Council, Community Green Space have been very good, and we've got 6 local groups and individual citizens sitting on this group. Phase 1 is completed. That's the new play park area for kids. Phase 2, which is upgrading the terracing, that's in planning and will be going out to tender soon. A whole host of local fundraising events, and it'll be one of the largest community projects in Highland Perthshire eventually, because there are a whole number of other things that we'll be putting into that. So that's just one project, and there will be a whole raft of smaller projects within that, many of which will fit in with what we're needing to do with Leader. Now, it probably said on your agenda that myself and Kate McRitchie would be doing this. Now, I'm not Kate McRitchie, of course. Kate's got a really dodgy sore throat today, so I said I would do this bit. And what we said, we will be willing, HPCP will be willing to help any group, individual who wants to come in and have a chat with us. We have an office in 23 Athol Road in Pitlochry, if you want to come in, and we will help go through, because we're aware that there are a number of people who never fill in these forms, and they can look like a bit of a nightmare to begin with, and sometimes they have their own kind of language. They're full of acronyms that you don't know what on earth they are, but we will help try and break some of that down. Although I haven't had a look at this one, it's not quite as bad as some, but there are still some things, and I think it's endemic with the form filling process that they just feel that they have to do this. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. So we'll be there to help, and just having a look at Kate had a quick look at the application form that came out, and some of the things that we would be looking at. You're a group, you represent part of a larger umbrella organisation that may affect the way that you want to apply. Is it the right thing? HPCP, for instance, would be applying on behalf of PUGS for some of the funding. Some of the match funding might come from PUGS, the group I mentioned earlier, HPCP, and we can marry that together as a process. Will the Leader grant apply for a project entirely, or will there be smaller projects in your overall, as we mentioned before? So these are some of the things. One thing that kind of worried me at state aid, for instance. If you don't know what state aid is, you will find out soon enough, depending on what you're applying for, with Leader. But I had a chat with Steve the other day about the Pavilion Users Group, and we are not affected by state aid. But some applications may well be, and that can limit the amount of money that you can apply for over a 3-year period. It's can be a wee bit more complicated, or just muddies the water a wee bit more, makes life a wee bit more interesting. Local Development Strategy Plan, it's listed as an LDS on your form. Kate and I had to go and find out what an LDS was. So it's just these kind of things that we can help. We will, it will be put, Steve said the Local Development Strategy Plan will be up on the LAG website. We'll put it up on our website too. And myself and Kate and Stuart, who also works in our office, we'll spend some time studying this through. So hopefully if you come in to see us and you're in Highland Perthshire, we should be able to answer most all of the questions that you have. One thing that I did like about the application form was the project plan, which is a good discipline to get into. It's like a business plan for your project. And if you don't have one, this kind of forces you to do one, which I think is a good tool to use. It can look as though it's another form to fill in. But if you looked at it as a tool, then I think it can help you create a better, more cohesive, focused plan. One thing I'll say about Leader that we discovered when we applied the last time, that cash flow was the big thing we struggled with, just in the way that Leader paid out. So you really need to ensure that you have a good cash flow and keep an eye on your cash flow, particularly if you're a small group, and this may well be just one project you're doing. But there'll be plenty of assistance for you there to help us through, and we will try and help you too. If you want to, that's it. I was told I only had 10 minutes, and I think I've done 8. Very proud of myself. And they come and speak to us, come and find out where we are. We'll be more than happy to help talk you through anything at all if you're in Highland Perthshire. Highland Perthshire, we define, for the purposes of our group, is 10 community council areas, the most southernmost one being Dunkeld and Burnham. At the northernmost end, it's Blair Athol, Struan, and then it's Pitlochry and Moulin across to Rannoch and Tummel, and all the 10 community councils within there. That's the area that Highland Perthshire Communities Partnership look at. So if you want to come and speak to us about anything at all, both Kate and I are here today. Kate's down here. Oh, she might speak like this, but she's over there. Okay. Thank you.